routing. Okay, so VPN and routing. So what's your current understanding of VPN? Who wants to go first?
Hopefully it's not too loud. I got my daughter here. She's watching Toy Story.
It is a bit noisy, but carry on.
Welcome to Sunnyside,
Yeah.
folks.
I mean, so far my understanding is basically VPN is to say tunnel to connect unsecure internet to the internal private network.
Yep, good one. Yep. What about you, Jose?
Yeah, same. It's just a server that you can set up to uh, a virtual to connect virtual to a virtual private network into your network, whatever your network may be.
Yep. Yep. So it's just a way to get to connect external um, networks or external users or devices to your internal network. So that's like
Hmm.
the main thing that it does. Okay, so let's go for VPN basics. So let's do this. So if I have a server here in my infrastructure, let's call this um, let's call this my VPN dot internal.com. Yeah. So this is my VPN server. So let's say the IP address is 196.7.7.7. Okay. So that's my internal VPN server. And of course, on the inside of the network, we have like all these other servers. So let's say this like the file server, the email server. Let's go file, email, application. So all these are within the network. And I've got now there are two types of VPN connections. Do you know what the two types are? There are two main types of VPN connection.
Just go.
Carry on, please.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. Yeah. How about you, Joe? Any idea? There are two main types of
Just come talk to me.
Hardware and software?
and not really.
Well, thank you,
Um,
big baby.
have
Why
you
don't
heard
you
of
tell me you're a friend?
remote access before?
Oh, baby.
Oh yeah.
Thrown out together,
Yeah.
me
So
and
which one
him,
is the second one?
and we got the same phone.
Hold on.
We
Yeah.
don't
Remote
need owners at
access.
Sunnyside. We own ourselves.
Damn.
We're masters of our own fate. We
Oh,
control
site
our
to
own
site.
destiny.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, watch out for
So
puddles.
here's my question.
Yes, when you go.
So what's the difference between remote access and site to site? Jose, what do you think? What's the difference between remote access and site to site?
Uh, Remote access is probably for a true remote person. That's not. Yeah, I'm not even sure. That's a good question.
You're actually
I,
you're right. You're right. Because when you talk about remote access VPN, remote access VPN is usually for a user. So you have a
mhm.
single user who is working from home, or a single user who is working in a customer office, or a single user who is working from a hotel, from a conference or something. So he's got this laptop with him or with her, or he or she has a laptop. Yeah. So they've got this laptop. So inside this laptop, there's a VPN client. It's an
Mhm.
application that is installed on the machine. It's a
Right.
VPN client. So they can make a connection from their laptop um, to this VPN server, which will equally now give them access to the internal resources. But the thing is, this is usually for a user, and then the other thing is it is on demand. What do we mean by it is on demand? It's not
Meaning
carry on.
Look, everyone,
it's not on all the time.
Exactly. So that's what it means. So that means it's not on all the time. So this user, whenever he wants to access anything within the network, connects to this VPN server, gets access to what is inside the network. When they finish, they disconnect. So this one will go away. So they disconnect this connection. The connection goes away completely. And whenever they want to connect again, they connect and everything goes smoothly and they connect again. Whereas site to site has to do with a branch office scenario. So you have a branch office here. Maybe you have your domain controller. Let's see. So maybe you have your domain controller, you have your file server. But what you want to do is you want this branch office to be connected to maybe your headquarter office. Maybe you have a DC here, you have a file server here. So what you can do is on this site, you will need a VPN server, another VPN server here. And this VPN server will connect directly to the VPN server here. And usually this connection stays on. So this connection is not like on demand. This connection stays on. It's usually on because it's connecting one site to another site. Whereas remote access is simply connecting a user to the VPN, to the internal network whenever they need it. So those are like the two main types of VPN. So here's my question is that now we've got these two scenarios. Does anyone want to, so Ose, can you describe your understanding of what goes on when this user wants to connect to this VPN server and get access to these resources? Can you describe step by step what exactly is going on?
Um, I mean, I can just tell you from the 1,000 square foot view. Basically, the user will connect to their VPN client, and you need internet access, of course, from your laptop to do that.
Yeah.
So they'll sign in with their username and password, and then that'll create a tunnel back to the VPN on your network, which, if your username and or if your password's up to date, you should be able to connect, and then that'll allow you access to the network resources like file, email, and app.
Nice one, very nice one. You brought up some really important points. Actually, you're like in the right direction, so that's really, really awesome. So you get creates a tunnel and then they get access. What about you, Joe? What's your thoughts?
Same as that. I mean, when a VPN client, when the client wants to connect,
Yeah,
obviously they have to have internet and they have to have some kind of a client to connect to the internal network. So, I mean, like Jose said, from that, once they initiate the client, they would either use some kind of a tunneling protocol, point to point, layer two tunneling protocol, whatever the situation is, and get access to the internal network.
yeah,
So,
nice one. Nice one. Actually, you've brought up like the main point that we wanted to make. So that's awesome. So let me mute Joe again. Yep, thanks. Oh, okay, yeah. Wow, sorry, I didn't notice that Shami and Sven already joined. Sorry, guys. I didn't notice that you joined already. Welcome. Sorry. Okay. So yeah, yeah. How you doing? Hey, you're right. That was the first time I've seen Sven. Usually hide behind the cool all black picture. Yeah. How you doing, Shami? You alright?
Hi guys.
Yeah, how you doing, man? How's everything?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, very good, thank you.
Good stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, so the whole scenario is coming together. So you said, so what you've described there is actually accurate. Or is there anything else that Shami or Sven wants to add in terms of um, VPN connectivity? So what we're looking for is a clear description because that's what we want to do. Because I tell you, like one of the things we usually say in our hangout or in the community is that IT people, it's easy to get to confuse one another. And I tell you, this particular topic is one of the areas where it's easy to confuse one another. I tell you, because you come to this topic and you read I mean, like you have the Microsoft textbook and the Microsoft, manual and all that about this one, and you try to read it, and believe me, like you see things like you know PPTP, L2TP, SSTP, IK, PPP, non-NAS, NAP, MPS, HRA, IPsec, EAP, PAP. You get where I'm going. So basically, it's like one of these topics that we can come and just go, yeah. So when you connect to this one, you just use L2P, and then whenever it's now coming back, it's gonna go over IPsec, and then it's gonna create a tunneling protocol. And at the end of the day, we're more confused than when we first started because there's a lot of terms and a lot of things to really understand when it comes to like this particular topic because there's a lot of acronyms and all that kind of stuff that is easy to gloss over. And there's still, I mean, they keep going. You go EAP, TLS, you
Okay,
go.
stop, David. You're killing me here.
No, serious. But see, I tell you, no problems, man, no problems. But
I know what you mean. This is a very intense topic. I hate this one. I'm very bad at this
yeah,
this topic.
yeah, it's true. I agree with you, Shami. This topic is like really intense with like lots of things, and unfortunately, Microsoft implementation also it's like really confusing. I mean, we'll
Yeah.
see it when we get to the interface, and when you see the interface and you see like all the options, it gets like really confusing. So that's why we're trying to take it really slowly, so everything is clear and all that. So okay, so Shami, do you have anything that you want to add in terms of like what goes on when this user, or sorry, when this VPN client here is trying to connect to this VPN server here to access the internal resources? What are like the stages that is going on?
I think the main point is like the creative tunnel.
Hmm?
Before they get access, it might be that they have validation checks,
Yep,
so it might pass it off to HRA, like you mentioned previously,
yep,
and then it would say, okay, are these following checks met? Does this person have latest Windows updates or antivirus system on there?
yep,
And if they are met, they will go into a different pool, and
yep,
that pool might just sorry, my battery's
yep,
about to die. That pool might have Windows updated within there, so it will patch the machine
yep,
before they can access internal resources.
yep,
And so, yep.
yep. So there, that's really good point. Shami brought up something else, which we'll also discuss. Yeah, okay. And Sven said he's not able to talk because he's on the train. Okay, so the main things, yeah, the main things regarding this topic is that there's mainly everything that we're going to be discussing, every single thing, there's mainly three stages that a VPN connection goes through, three main stages. And all the things we listed, all those PPTP, LTTP, all of them fall within these three stages. Number one stage is the one that Jose mentioned here, connection. That's the number one thing that happens. First, there has to be a connection between the client and the server. And there are different ways to create that connection, which we'll be discussing. One of them is PPTP, one of them is L2TP, one of them is SSTP, one of them is IKE version 2. So all these protocols fall under connection. So you say first thing that happens is there has to be a connection. And when you want to make a connection, you have to determine which protocol are we going to use to make this connection. That is where all these ones fall under. Then after you make the connection, the next thing that happens is authentication. Now, authentication is I want to check, am I authorized? Sorry, not authorized. Am I meant to have access, or and do I have access? So authentication, there are lots of protocols that can be used also. We've got PAP, which we'll discuss again. So you can see the reason why if this is not broken down, it can get complicated really fast. We have PAP, we have CHAP, we have MS CHAP version 2, we have EAP, we have PEAP. So all these fall under authentication. So again, the first thing that happens is there has to be a connection. Connection, we have to determine which protocol we'll use. So which protocol we'll use, they have different rules by which they operate, which we'll get into. Then after that, we have to determine how do we authenticate. So how we authenticate, there are different protocols that we can use to authenticate, which we'll get into. Then after that, it's authorization. So we have to determine, so authentication is a bit different from authorization. So what's the difference between authentication and authorization? What's your thoughts on it? So authentication, authorization, what's the difference? Jose, you want to go for that? What's like the difference between I'm
I think
authenticating you? Carry on, Shami. Carry on.
so. To me, is authentication is okay. We verified you are using these protocols like you mentioned, PAP, CHAP, and you have VPN access.
Mm-hmm.
And an authorization would be the stage where you have to meet certain requirements, which I mentioned previously. So Windows updates, antivirus system, you need to be on a Windows 7 point client and so on. So I see that as authorization. That's what I think it is.
Excellent, excellent answer. A very excellent answer, Shami. That's excellent. Yeah. So authorization is, so yes, I think, okay, yeah, I think authorization, what you are allowed to do. Yeah, good one. That's basically exactly what Shami explained. Thanks very much, Ben and Shami. So authentication, Shami says, is who you are. Absolutely correct. So authentication is like, hey, who are you? Do you have access at all? Authorization is what are you allowed to do. Now, what you are allowed to do may be based on different things, like what Shami mentioned, maybe based on are you allowed to do this based on is your computer updated, which we'll get into like in a lot more details. So the first thing that I want to discuss, or that I think that is worth discussing, is let's start first with authentication. And there's the reason. Because when we start talking about things like PPTP, L2TP, SSTP, IKE version 2, they all depend on understanding these ones. Because whether you use PPTP, you still have to authenticate, which you have to authenticate using one of these. Or even if you use L2TP, you still have to authenticate, which you authenticate using one of these one. So that's why let's start first with authentication protocols for VPN. So number one that we're going to start with is PAP. So how does PAP work, or what's like PAP? Who wants to go for that? Jose, you want to go for that? PAP. PAP means password. Yeah. So how does PAP work? Password authentication protocol. Yep. Any idea, Jose?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Yep.
It's
Well,
Yeah, carry on.
password. I'm gonna go for it. This is the only one I know. Is password authentication. It's plain text password. It's probably the most insecure out of all of them.
Yeah. Plain text. Um, Most insecure. So this is absolutely right, what Shami has described. So this is absolutely right. So his password authentication is plain text is most insecure. But what does that mean? Let us break it down. You have your VPN server here. You have your client computer here that has an application on it, which is the VPN client application. So this guy wants to connect to this VPN server here. So you have the VPN server here. By the way, what they usually call them in Microsoft term is they call them this is the authenticator and this is the peer. So that's what they usually call them. So you got the authenticator and you got the peer. So the peer contacts the authenticator. Again, remember, first thing that happens is the connection and says, hey, I want to connect to you. Yeah. This one says, yeah, sure. You can connect to me. What's the, what's like the key that you want to use to connect to me? So what happens is when you're configuring this VPN server, you configure a shared key on it. So you say the key to connect is 1234. So you've given that to the user over here. So this one goes, I want to connect. This one goes, yeah, sure, you can connect. Send the key to me. So this guy now goes and says, okay, here is the key that I want to use to connect. And the key will be sent over the network. The key is 1234. And this will go over this network and it will go to this guy here. So the issue is that this one will go over the network in plain text, and anyone, maybe there's an ISP, there's a dodgy ISP router here where they are collecting all the data that is flowing through the router and they are capturing and harvesting all this information. They have all your details and everything that they need to make a VPN connection because everything is transported over the network. So you have the shared key that is stored on the server. The user here knows the shared key and it is sent over the network in plain text. So that is PAP. So usually people don't use this like in production environment because it's too insecure. So the number 2 is challenge handshake authentication protocol, which is CHAP. So what is it about CHAP? So what's going on with CHAP? Who wants to describe CHAP? Joe, you want to describe CHAP? Challenge handshake authentication protocol. So you can see it's an authentication protocol. It's not for making connection. Its own purpose is just to authenticate. So we'll come back to the connection protocols again. So CHAP. So who wants to describe CHAP? Jose?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
Joe is not responding. So
This,
sorry.
He's looking for us.
Oh,
looking for
I think CHAP is a little bit more secure than PAP in the way that they it's not sent over the network.
good one.
So the secret is not it's almost like I don't know what example I can give it. Almost like a symmetric, I guess, to where you both know you have like a challenge as far as in you have the text, but you just gotta know the challenge to get you the text. You don't send the actual plain text through the network.
Now, Joe, what you said now is absolutely correct. But what I want is good one. So what we want is how do we break it down so we can understand. So I'll mute Joe again. I'll mute you. Yeah. So what I want to do is to break it down so we can understand. So Sven says host sends the challenge. So Sven, so let's go through this together. So Sven says the host. So what's the host? What do you mean by the host? Is it the authenticator or the peer? So which one, who sends the challenge? The authenticator or the peer? Oh, okay, host. Okay, I guess you mean the server context. Yeah, the VPN client. Okay, so let's go step by step with this one again. Because that's the key point is we want to try to understand these things. We want to try to understand them. Okay, so number one thing the Sven mentioned is that the server, okay, so first one is the client will contact the server and say, I want to connect. Then Sven says the server sends a challenge. So what is the challenge that the server will send? What does it look like? Just client encrypts the challenge with password and sends it back. It can be a timestamp, random number, good one, good one. Random number, yep. So after that, the client replies, as Ven said, and the client replies with an encryption of the client encrypts the challenge with password and sends it back. So how does it do that, Ven?
Well, it must be some kind of algorithm that both of them use.
Sir, yes, sir.
And I'm assuming since it's some kind of algorithm, maybe is there anything as far as maybe a hash or anything?
Yeah, good one. I mean, thanks very much. Yeah. So you're right, Joe, and you're absolutely right, Ven. I think putting the two things that you've both said together makes, I mean, everything comes together. So what Sven said in the message is that with the password that you type in. So this is the way it works. So that's really nice, guys. Really, really nice. So this is the way it works. So this guy goes, hey, I want to connect to you. The client goes to the server and says, hey, I want to connect to you, server. Then the server says to the client, okay, here is a random challenge. So the random challenge, let's say it's one, no, let's not use 1, 2, 3, 4. The random challenge, let's say is 45. Now, when the random challenge is sent over the network, anybody that is capturing what is going on the network will be able to see this challenge. They'll be able to capture it and see exactly what is going on. That this guy just sent a challenge of 45. Ah, yeah, boy. They say this guy just sent a challenge of 45 to the client. So anybody that's in the middle here will be able to capture this one. But when this guy gets it, what will now happen is this. So this guy has a password that is stored on him or a shared key. This guy knows that shared key. So what this guy will do is he will take the shared key that we know together, yep, and I will mix it up with this random challenge that you sent to me, this 45 that this guy sent to me. I'll mix it up with that 45, yep, and I will hash it. So in other words, let's go look at this one a minute. Let's bring because all these things tie in really they tie in a lot with the basics of cryptography. So if I go generate HMAC, yeah, let's go generate HMAC. So I can go, okay, let's say I want to say hello. Let's let's maximize this one. And then yeah, so I want to say hello. Now I have a secret key. So number one, because normally what we're used to in hashing is you have the message and you just hash the message. But this time around, you're not just hashing the message, you're hashing the message with a secret key. So if the secret key is 45 and I compute the hash comes back, this is the hash. Now, even if the secret key changes and I say, well, it's 46 and I compute the H mark again, it's going to be something completely different. So let's go back to our diagram. So again, remember, this guy sent a challenge. The challenge is, let's say 45. Both of them know a shared key. Yeah. And when it gets to the client will take the shared key that he knows with the 45 that this guy sent that everybody can see. It will hash it and then send it back to him. Now, when this one gets it, this one will be like, okay, I sent 45 to you. I also know the shared key because it is configured on me. And now I know the hashing algorithm that you used, which is, let's say you use SHA-1 algorithm. and then I will hash it again, and we should get the same result. Now, the thing here is both of them have communicated with one another without sending this shared key over the network. The only thing that is sent is a randomly generated number, but no one knows what the shared key is except you get it from this guy or except you hack into this server here, because it is not sent over the network. So CHAP is a challenge response authentication protocol that doesn't involve the shared key to be sent over the network. I'm not sure, is that clear? Is that clear, Jose,
Yeah.
or is it
No,
confusing?
that
Or is it more confusing now?
no. It's very good
No, it's
example.
it's clear. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a little more clear now.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. Yeah. Yeah. So that's exactly what is going on. So they are authenticating one another, but this password won't be transferred at all. Whereas this guy, Pab, will just go ahead and just go, yep, there's the password. We're going to send it over the network. These guys will do the authentication without sending the password at all. So even if somebody in the middle knows the 45, you know, you know what the hashing algorithm that they use is, but the shared key you don't have it because it's not even sent over the network. But here's the thing, you think that this is really, really secure, right? You think that this will be really, really secure because we're not sending the password, we're not sending the shared key. We're just doing like all these strange things going on. Nobody knows what the shared key is. But you know what? If somebody in the middle can capture just the hash that was sent, they can still find out what the key is from that hash. And many people have done it online. So even CHAP is not considered to be too secure. So Microsoft implementation of CHAP, so it's the same concept, but just Microsoft implementation of it. Microsoft implementation of CHAP is MS CHAP. Then Microsoft came up with another implementation of CHAP called MS CHAP version 2. The only difference between MS CHAP version 2 and MS CHAP is that this one, it's just a one-way authentication, whereas MS CHAP version 2 is that both of them are authenticating one another using the same method. So it's the same method, but in this case, both of them, so the client is authenticating the server is authenticating the client. So that's like the main difference between this one and this one. And both of these ones have vulnerabilities where if the hash is captured, people can discover what the password is from that hash. So one of them is the one that, let's go. One of them is the one that I think I have it. Let me see. I think I have it bookmarked here. Yep, here we go. Yep, I have it bookmarked here. So it's called this one. Actually, not just that one. There's a blog. Yeah, here we go. So MS Chat version 2. And they went into details of like the vulnerability because the main thing that is hidden is still the key. So there's only one thing that is hidden. The only thing that is hidden is just that key. And what they are now saying is that we can generate that key from the hash that you're sending across the network. And what these guys are saying is, if you capture any MS Chat version 2 traffic, if you capture it, just come and upload the capture, upload it to our website, and within 24 hours, we'll give you what the passcode is. So from the captured traffic, they can generate that code. So it's not secure. It's not too secure also. So then there's another one. There's another authentication protocol called EAP. And the thing with EAP. So who wants to explain EAP? What does EAP do? Like, or how does EAP operate? EAP, anyone? EAP, anyone? Does anyone know how EAP operates?
Looks
Joe,
like it's an authentication using wireless networks and point-to-point connections.
sorry, can you repeat that again?
Yeah, I was just saying it's authentication frequently used in wireless networks and point-to-point connections.
Yeah, that's true. So, yeah. Currently used.
Now, I think what I understand is EAP is a framework, and not exactly a protocol, but just it's kind of how it tells you how the information should be transmitted or something like that. To where, I mean, there's a bunch of different ones, so it's merely a framework on how everything will be encapsulated.
Yeah, yeah, good one. Does anyone else have anything to add to that? Yeah, anyone else have anything to add to that? Hmm? Anything? So like what Joe said, EAP is not like it's sort of like a framework in itself, because what EAP just does is it just takes your other authentication methods and encrypts it. So you can add something to it. So for example, in this case, you can have something like EAP MSCHAP version 2. So what it will just do is that instead of just sending the hash across, it will encrypt it. So it's an extensible framework where you can add any other authentication method to it. But what it's going to do is going to use the same principles of the authentication protocol, but it will just be encrypted. So that's what EAP is. And PEAP is simply just double encryption. So basically, you're encrypting it the first time, then encrypting it the second time. So that's like for that. So there are other methods for authentication. There's something like you can use machine certificate for authentication also, and you can even say there's no authentication is required at all. Yeah. So that's like for the authentication protocols of VPN. So let's cancel all these and let's go back to the connection protocols. So the first one, PPTP. So does someone want to explain PPTP to us? Help us with PPTP. We said the hangout is more of like a discussion. So let's discuss PPTP together. So what's your understanding of PPTP?
It's used it's used for point-to-point.
Yeah. Well, how exactly does it work? Like, and so if I have a VPN client here and a VPN server here, and they both like, okay, yeah, we've agreed, we're gonna connect to one another using PPTP. So what exactly goes on between them? Yeah, what exactly is going on between them?
That I'm not sure.
Oh, hold on. So, what was the question again? Sorry, I missed it.
I said, sorry. So I said, so if you have a VPN client there and you have a VPN server here, now they can use different protocols to connect to one another. If they decide, okay, we're going to use PPTP, so what exactly goes on between them?
Well, I mean that will have to go through the, I'm guessing through the ISP. So basically, I'm assuming it will be when the client has to, I mean both the client and the server, whoever is connecting to, they have to agree on the same protocol they're going to be using.
Mm-hmm.
And then I believe then the ISP is the one that makes the connection between the two.
Yeah, yes. What do you think, Shami? What do you think of it? PPTP.
I don't really know, to be honest,
Mm-hmm.
so I want to stay quiet.
Sven, yeah, no problem. Sven, what about you? What do you think? Sven, what do you think? Is Sven there?
This is a hard one, David.
I tell you like one of the reasons why this one, why I think this one is like this is that let me go, let's go this one. One of the reasons why this one is like is that number one is that VPN is not is mainly you won't find it in like the Microsoft realm where people use VPN like that. The only reason why Microsoft people are like getting a little bit involved in like things like VPN is because of the popularity of direct access. So it's something that typically, your Cisco guy or your network guy will look at in the office and all that. So that's typically what it's about. Okay, yeah, Oze is mentioning something. Oze said protocol often used when connecting a computer to the internet. PAP can support multiple authentication mechanisms such as token, yeah? Ah, nice one, Sven. So Sven, what we're saying is that, what's your understanding of PPTP? How does it work?
Well, it is basically to encapsulate PPP traffic.
Yeah, good
This
one.
is one. This is one thing. Then you need one port
Hmm.
open on the VPN server side.
Yeah.
And I think it does use another port for control traffic or so, but I'm not quite sure about this.
Hmm. Yeah. So you're right in that what it does is it encapsulates. So PPTP, one of the issues with PPTP is that PPTP actually doesn't encrypt anything. So what PPTP basically does is it takes your IP packet. Actually, let me see. I think there's a nice animation that someone did. So it takes your, let's see, okay, look at this animation. Let's go this one. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Yeah. So what PPTP just basically does is just add an header to your whatever IP protocol, whatever protocol you're using, whether IP, IPX, whatever. It just adds an header to it to say this is where you're going to. But it doesn't actually encrypt anything, or it doesn't actually so it authenticates, but it doesn't encrypt anything. So it just takes whatever packet you're sending and just puts a header to it. So you can see that the only thing that it's doing in this process is the request comes in, goes to this one. Let's go. Come on. So let's see again. Request comes in. Yeah. Okay. No, maybe that's not a good animation. Let me see another better one. Yeah.
I think what PPTP does, it is using this generic routing encapsulation protocol, and well, it takes your IP traffic and just encapsulate it into this generic routing encapsulation
Yeah.
protocol.
So it takes the IP protocol. Like let's say you have your data here, and in front of your data will have your IP header here. What PPTP will just do is if you just add another header in front, which will just be the point-to-point header, and send it across. Now this doesn't encrypt anything. It just adds an header to it and sends it to this guy. And then when this guy gets it, this guy understands the content in this header. And when he receives it, he understands the content in this header and he can reply back to this guy. So it's basically the traffic goes out from the VPN client, and header is added to it. It gets to this guy. This guy takes away the header because he understands the header and then sends it to the internal network. So it's not doing any encryption. It's not doing any fancy stuff or security stuff. It's just adding an header that this guy understands. And actually, there's a place there where we downloaded like what the header looks like. So if I go sample PPTP capture. See here, there's one that I saw about a packet capture that someone took. Mm, mm, um, yeah, can't see it anymore. Yeah, it's the capture. No, yeah. So it's just adding an header to it. It's not encrypting anything. What about L2TP? How does L2TP work? Hello? Jose, are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
I I'm just staying quiet because I have no idea. From now on, I'll just tell you I have no idea.
uh, Joe and Sven and Shami, L2TP, how does it work?
You say L2TP?
Yeah.
Um, well, that one it's a layer 2, so it transfers. I believe isn't that used more of a WAN kind of connection, and oh.
Hello, you're breaking. Hello? Hello? Yeah, I think Joe, I think you're muted. Ah, okay. I think we lost Joe maybe. Okay. Shami and Ven, what's your understanding of L2TP?
Oh well, I just know that this is some sort of other VPN protocol, but I didn't have time to watch this in Wireshark because I had very serious problems with my VPN server.
Yeah.
So I had no time to look at this protocol in detail.
Yeah. Shami, anything in terms of L2TP?
No, nothing.
This is a really this is a
I
really
hate these protocols, all of them. I hate them.
I tell you, this is
I'm
like what
on it.
Yeah,
I'm on
carry
the
on.
same boat.
Yeah, I tell you, like this is like one of the this is like one of the complex ones, I think, that people try to wrap. my one of my understanding of my main understanding of L2TP is that you have to, number one, have um some certain ports open on your network between your client and your server for it to work. So you have to have port 1701 open between this guy and this guy. And the other thing I know is that it uses IPsec for encryption. So for those that don't know, IPsec is kind of like a framework that has many protocols that it supports. So you can use things like DES, triple DES, or AES for encryption. So all these three are symmetric encryptions. So symmetric encryptions just simply means you're using a single key to encrypt and you're using a single key to decrypt. So L2TP uses IPsec for its encryption. So that's like one of the main reasons why it's preferred than PPTP, because it's a bit more secure, because you can use IPsec with it and you can use these protocols for its encryption. Yeah. Okay. SSTP. What about SSTP? I think SSTP should be a bit more simpler for us, because SSTP is basically um, HTTPS for VPN. So it's just basically same one. Yeah, carry on. Who wants to talk about SSTP?
Well, I think you need a certificate on the server side,
Yeah.
and the client uses the public key of this certificate to I I'm not quite sure if that is used for authentication or for encryption, but I guess
Yeah, you're
it's
right.
used
It's for
for
encryption. Yeah.
it's used for encryption,
Yep, it's
and
for
I
encryption.
think the server and the client first share a symmetric key
Mm-hmm.
using the public key and the private key of the host.
Mm-hmm.
And after the exchange ended, they use symmetric encryption with the key, which
Yeah.
they exchanged with a asymmetric encryption channel. I think, yeah, that's the way it works.
Yep, good ones, Vin. Shami, you want to add anything to that?
No.
Yeah. Um, Joe and Ozzy, anything you want to add to that?
Um, I think that's the one that's proprietary to Microsoft. So only really Microsoft is using. It's not like open source or anything. I know since it's a secure socket, it obviously uses TCP port 443.
Yeah.
And I think it uses advanced encryption protocol, which is pretty strong
Mm-hmm.
encryption.
AES, yeah. Okay.
So
Uses.
I mean, the only disadvantage is just the fact that it's just proprietary, in which case means it's not open source like L2TP or anything like that.
Yeah.
So
So that's like another good one. Another good point that Joe mentioned is that L2TP is actually open source. So which means if you set up your VPN server with L2TP, you can have a Linux client connect to it. Yeah, because they all understand L2TP and they all understand IPsec. So you can have it's open. It's an open standard. It's not like a proprietary. Okay, so to regarding this one, um, regarding the one for SSTP. So SSTP stands for Secure Socket Tunneling Protocol. So again, remember, if you look at all these protocols, just from their name, you can find out which part they stand. So authentication protocols, you can see PAP is password authentication protocol. CHAP is challenge and shake authentication protocol. So all of them ends with authentication protocol. MS CHAP is, Microsoft CHAP, challenge and shake authentication protocol. EAP, extensible authentication protocol. PEAP, protected extensible authentication protocol. This one, connection protocol, or some people call it tunneling protocol. You can see PPTP is point-to-point tunneling protocol. LTTP is layer 2 tunneling protocol. SSTP is secure socket tunneling protocol. So there are connection protocols and then there are authentication protocols. So for SSTP, the way it works, like what Sven mentions, is it works using certificates. So the port that you need to be open is port 443. So this is the way it works. If you have your digital certificate in your infrastructure, like let me go to this one. Let me bring up digital certificate on my machine. Let's go MMC and let's go add or remove snapping. Come on. Yeah, we got that. Yeah, okay, here we go. Certificate, just my user account certificate. Let's bring that up. Let's see if I've got any. Oh, okay, I don't have any. Let's look for one. It doesn't matter. Let's look for let's look for one. So you have a certificate. Your certificate contains certain information. Number one information it contains is who issued the certificate or which certificate authority issued the certificate. Number two information it contains is who is it issued to, Then if you go under details and you go down here, you see something here called public key. So let's try to because I think that this particular topic of VPN and even direct access, they tie so much into cryptography that it's difficult to explain them without understanding cryptography. So let's just spend like about 5 minutes just revising cryptography so that it will be a bit more clearer. Basics of cryptography. So what is cryptography? Or what when we say cryptography, what are we talking about?
Taking plain text and somehow using an algorithm to come up with a...
Nice one, Joe. So cryptography, simply put, is take a plain text, you apply an algorithm to it or a calculation. So an algorithm, you can just put a calculation to it, and then you come up with something called
ciphertext.
Yeah, good one. A ciphertext. Yeah. And then in the same way you can decrypt. So you have your ciphertext. You apply your algorithm or calculation to it, and you come up with your plain text again. Now there are two types of cryptography or encryption. What is the first one?
Symmetric.
Symmetric. So that's like the first type. And what is symmetric? What does symmetric mean?
Well, both parts got one key, and the key is used for encryption, and the key is used for decryption.
Good one, very good one. So you have one key, and the thing is, one key is used both for encryption and also for decryption, which simply means if I have my plain text and the encryption key or the algorithm or the calculation that is used is 5, I apply 5 to my plain text, I get my ciphertext. Now, if I should take that ciphertext and apply 5 to it again, I'll get my plain text back because the same key that I used to encrypt it is the same key that I used to decrypt it. And then we have what's the second one?
Asymmetric.
Asymmetric encryption. And what is asymmetric encryption?
Well, here you will use a public key, which is open for everyone, it's public.
Yep.
And the other one is a private key. which has to be private. So, and you can encrypt a message with a public key and decrypt it with a private key, or the other way around.
Yeah.
So it works in both ways.
Excellent, excellent, Ben. So basically, asymmetric, whereas symmetric uses only one key for encryption and decryption, asymmetric operates with a key pair. So whenever asymmetric keys are generated, they are generated in a pair at the same time. So if I want to generate a key for Jose, I'll generate a key pair for you. The key pair will be, one will be a public key, one will be a private key, and I'll give the two to you. Now that key pair, your public key, you can hang it around and give it to anybody. So you can give your public key to Joe, to Shami, to Sven, to me, and it's a public key. But the private key, you keep it with you at all times. Now the way it works is this: you can use any one of them for encryption or decryption. But the way it works is this: anything you encrypt with the private key can only be decrypted with the public key. So if you encrypt something with your private key, Jose, yeah. No, by Joe, no for So if you encrypt something with your private key, Jose, and you give that private key to me, yeah, and then you give that information to me, I can use your public key to decrypt that information because it was encrypted with your private key. Now, if I encrypt something with your public key, only you can access it because whatever we encrypt with your public key can only be decrypted with your private key. And whatever you encrypt with your private key can only be decrypted with the public key. So how does that work? So the reason why we brought all this is to explain like the way SSTP and all that, how they work. So the way they work is this: you have your VPN server here. So your VPN server will have a certificate on it. This certificate will have something like, it was issued to me by this person. My name is, VPN, my public key is, so and so. Yeah, whatever. So actually, if I go back to this one and I go to that certificate and I go under details and I go under public key, you can see the public key here. So it's not hidden, it's available to anyone. So I have the client sitting down here. This client is like, okay, I want to connect to you, to this server. This client connects to this server. The minute this client connects to this server, so it actually operates in something called an handshake. So this guy goes and says, hey, hello, I want to connect to you. So when he connects to him, this guy goes and says, hey, thanks for wanting to connect to me. By the way, here is my certificate. And this guy receives the certificate. And inside that certificate is a public key. Now, this certificate, remember that if somebody is sitting in the middle and somebody is like, yeah, I'm going to be stealing all your information, yeah, you have access to this public key, right? I mean, you can access this public key. It's not hidden anywhere. So this public key, you can get it. It's not hidden. But this guy now takes this one and says, okay, this public key, I will use it to encrypt a key, a randomly generated key. Let's say the key is 124. I will take 124. I will use your public key to lock it up. And 124 becomes, let's say 124, by the time I encrypt it with your public key, 124 becomes THY. And no one is like, and then I send this one out from this one. Now, even if this guy gets THY, he won't be able to change this thing back to 124 because the only thing that can change this thing back is the private key equivalent of this one. And the only person that has the private key is this guy here. So the only way this guy can find out what this THY stands for is if he can get a hold of this private key. So again, public key, when I contact the server sends a certificate to me. The certificate includes his public key. I generate a random key you know, I encrypt it with his public key and send it back to him. So when he receives it, so this guy now receives this information that I sent to him and goes, yeah, I know this is not like what you really want to send to me. There's an hidden information there. It will apply the private key to decrypt this information, and when he applies the private key, he can decrypt it. It becomes 124. So he understands what I'm saying. I'm not sure if that is clear. I'm not sure. Is that clear at all?
Yes, it's clear. It's clear.
Yeah.
What's this like? Yeah.
No, I mean, I get the, I knew some type of handshake authentication in the process, so now it's a little more clear that you explained it. So.
Yeah. I know Shami already knows this already, I know. So that would be, yeah. So that would be, so basically that's like the way SSTP operates. And I
But
think
is a whole traffic encrypted over the asymmetric way? Because I think that asymmetric encryption is not very it's not very good for performance reasons. So it is better to use symmetric
so you're
encryption.
right. So what happens
And
is that they use asymmetric just for the connection.
yeah, it's just
Yeah.
used for exchanging a symmetric key, right? And
Yeah,
afterwards they switch
exactly.
over to symmetric encryption
Again, what
because
the symmetric key? What is the symmetric key? The symmetric key is the key that this guy has encrypted with the public key.
yeah.
So this is the symmetric. So this is the one that they will actually be using to encrypt, but just to form the connection, they use private key, public key to form the connection. So
Yeah.
after they form the connection, the tunnel is secure. This guy has the key. This guy has the key. But this key, when it was transferred and moving in between this line, it moved in this form. So nobody knows what their key is except you have this private key. So by the time that the whole connection is finished, this is the key that they will now be using to be encrypting information between one another because it's much faster.
Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, when we start going into that, you see. So actually, let's go. Let's go. Let's go to TeamViewer and let's log into the computer.
Can you share the credentials again?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Thanks.
No problem. So if I go TeamViewer, so if I go TeamViewer download. Yeah, sorry, because I'm just quickly, because I have this server that I just set up yesterday that I'm trying to set up TeamViewer on it. So let's go. So enough of the talking this way. Let's actually do some lab stuff regarding this. Mm,
I'll be right back, guys. I'm just gonna hit the head real quick.
yeah, no problem.
Okay.
No problem, Shama. So I'm just setting it up quickly.
I actually upgraded my Hyper-V
Ah,
infrastructure, and now I'm using 2 SSD disks, and I'm using differential
oh,
disks. And this is really a great one. This is a really nice feature.
yeah,
I haven't used it in the past,
yeah,
but my base image got 20 gigs or so for my server 2012 R2,
yeah,
and then all my differentiating machines just consume 2 gigs or so,
Yeah.
and this is how the performance is quite well.
Yeah.
This is a great one.
SSDs, man, that would be super fast.
Yeah, yeah. And when you use the differentiating disks, it also saves a lot of disk space. So
Yeah.
I can host my whole infrastructure just on 2 SSDs. Mm.
Nice one, man. Nice one. So what we'll try to do is let's do some bit of lab regarding this one. Let's go. Um, let's start a snapshot on this guy here. Let's go. Actually, let's go. Machine. Mm,
Do you guys have an exam appointment at the moment? Do you know when you take the exam?
Me, not at the moment, no.
Oh, okay.
What about you? Okay, Jose said he's going to set one up very soon.
Yeah, I'm gonna set one up. I'm gonna try the new exam from home thing.
Oh,
So I'm
okay.
No,
hoping.
Yeah.
really? So you live in the US,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Ah, okay, okay.
So yeah, it's
So I'm
available in US now. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's not
But
it's not possible for
how
me.
will it work though?
Well, I think so how it works right now. So the camera on the other side of me will be, I guess, someone monitoring
So would that person be
monitoring me.
monitoring multiple people at the same time, or just be monitoring one person?
That's a good question. I'm not. I'm guessing one person at a time. I don't know.
But it's gonna be really
That's a good
complex. Like,
question.
how many people like will be taking Microsoft exams just in US alone? I'm sure there will be like
Yeah, that's going
multiple
to be
people. Like,
difficult to monitor everybody.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep. And then there's standards, so like you can't your OS, whatever computer you're on, you can't have nothing less than like Windows 7, I think. So XP or Vista, you can't take
yeah,
it. So there's prerequisites that your computer has to have before you can actually take the test.
yeah.
Ah, okay.
So okay,
But I'll be excited not to have to drive to a
yeah.
test center though.
Absolutely, like it's a good. It's
Nice
actually
one.
a good one. You like save a lot of stuff. I'm not sure
Yep.
like how they're gonna make it work for like when there are like literally thousands of people that'll be taking
Yeah.
exams.
And I think I read something too that it's important for no one to come in or out of the room. So if
Yeah.
exam
Ah,
I don't know. So if you have an emergency, if someone comes in the room, then they'll automatically stop the
Yeah.
test, and I guess
That's
you'll lose
it.
your money. Yeah. Yep.
wow.
So yeah. So just make sure that if you are going to take the test from home, no one comes barges in.
Yeah.
What if you have a baby? What if it's a baby that comes in?
I know. Yeah,
Are
that's
they are
true.
they gonna
That's
be like,
true.
yeah, the baby is bringing in textbooks for you. Your exam is gone. Sorry. It's like,
Yep.
and then they'll put in the report. He's trying to cheat using a baby. Oh wow. Is it, yeah? Shami, I posted the ID and the password in the chat window. Configure VPN access with VPN with MPS server. Um, with okay. So
Okay. So
I have
here.
to install an update on my TeamViewer, so
yeah, no problem. No problem. Let's go add it to.
Ah, okay. Ah, you don't have a CA at the moment. Okay.
No,
Okay. No, no problem. We can start from scratch.
from
So
that. Yeah. So actually, like, just to explain to Jose, because I know this one is it's a module for 7412 certification authority. So, but the whole point, the thing that we just described now about symmetric, asymmetric, and the thing that will be handling the generation of the keys is your certificate server, your certification authority.
oh, okay.
So it's the one that will be generating like the certificate, but included in the certificate are the keys. So that's like your certification authority. So that's why we're setting this one up. Because one of the things that we'll be doing is we'll be setting up um, SSTP and all that. So let's set this one
Oh,
up.
okay.
And then, actually, this is wrong. Oh no, I'm installing the wrong. I already have a DC and a CA, I think.
Uh, you were just installing an Active Directory domain services, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I already have it. Cancel. How can I? Is there a way to quickly cancel this?
But okay,
Can I
but
just go?
you can
You took
uninstall
a
it.
snapshot, didn't you?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Let me just go back
Yeah,
to.
just
Let me go
reverse.
back to snapshots. Okay. I was thinking maybe there's like a quick way that I can quickly run a command and say cancel, cancel immediately. Yeah. Okay. Let me just restore it back to restore snapshot. Yeah. I already have DC and CA with this guy. Yeah, I do. I already
Oh,
have
okay, okay.
DC. I didn't know.
Is it
Yeah.
a root CA or is it a standalone
It's
CA?
it's just one root CA. Can I ask you a
It's
question? Let me ask you a question. It's not a trick question, but if you have a CA in your environment, your root CA, will you join it to the domain, or will you leave it unjoined from the domain?
the root CA.
Yeah.
I think it's a best practice not to join the root CA to the domain. I think normally you will leave the root CA offline, and the root CA is just used to issue a certificate for your subordinate CA,
Hmm.
which is online, and the root CA is normally offline, and yeah,
Yep.
you just put your root CA to um, yeah, when you need another subordinate CA. So it's the safest way that the root CA doesn't get hacked.
Yep. Good one. Very good one. Very good one. Because I got that question in an interview recently.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Really?
I did.
Okay. And was it the right answer
No, no,
or?
that's absolutely the right answer. So
Oh, okay,
because
great.
yeah, because the best practice is after you set up your root CA, you shut it down so that no one can generate any other certificate
Yeah,
from it. And then
yeah,
the other thing is that you don't, because if you join it to the domain, it has to be communicating with the domain.
yeah,
There are some things that it's going to be doing on the domain if you join it to the domain. So usually you leave your root C as a standalone server,
yeah, yeah.
you
Normally,
generate certificate for your subordinate, and then you power it off.
yeah, because things in the domain can change, and also when you power it off, the
Yep.
passwords of the computer account can get problems and stuff like that.
Yep.
So normally it's just a non-member server.
Yep. Nice one. So let's go. Okay, so while I'm doing that, let me quickly generate a clone of this one, and let's go long clients to. Okay, so what we
Did you
currently
say
have. Carry on.
did you say you just recently had that question in an interview or?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I just I was
It's
just
funny
looking
because
at the interview.
I had an interview a few weeks ago and
Yeah.
I got asked what was the difference between an iterative query and a recursive. But it was
Oh,
before.
okay.
I
But
think
it's
we.
funny
Was it?
because it was before our hangout, so I was like,
Ah, okay, too
Oh.
bad. Oh.
Man,
Okay.
if that was after the hangout, you would have had a nice smile on your
Yeah.
face. Oh yeah.
After our hangout, you would just answer it like a pro.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. So true. Like I know like the guy that joined us last week, Taiwo, he had an interview where like maybe like an hangout maybe like 2 weeks before that, we're discussing exactly the question that they asked him in the interview where he was talking about some VMware stuff, and we're discussing that, and then they asked him that question in the interview that he went for. But actually, what do you think about interview? I think interview is more about, because I think many people have like, many people think interview is more about you know how to configure. I think interview is more about you understand the theory. I think that's like because interview is more like how much you can impress, whoever is interviewing you
Mm.
with technical jargons. So like if you understand the theory and you can talk like a lot of technical jargon, I think the person will
Mm. Yeah, that's
okay.
true.
If you know how to talk like a lot of technical jargon, I mean that's like the way I've seen it so far. So we have learn DC1 here, which is a domain controller, ADDS, and then Active Directory Certificate Services. And then we have learn mem1 here. So learn mem1, let's maximize this one. Learn mem1 will be our VPN server. So this will be our VPN server, and this will be our domain controller, and this will be our VPN server. And then we'll have learn client 2, which will be the clients that we'll be testing with. So what happens is this guy right here, he has two network adapters. One network adapter is connecting to the internal network. So let's say we've got where's the switch? Yeah, it
Right
doesn't
next to the
it doesn't matter.
firewall.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Right.
I was looking for
Uh,
yeah. We just use one to demonstrate. Yeah. So yeah, so we got two. So let's go. Let's say this is the internet. So this guy has one interface on the internet and one interface on the internal network. So let's go. It's connected one interface to the internal network, one interface to the internet. The client can also connect to the internet, and the DC is also connected to the internal network. So this is like the scenario that we're having. So the thing that we'll be doing is configuring this guy for VPN connectivity, and then setting up this guy to connect to him. So um, first thing, yeah. So this one is like the simple part. So I can quickly do this one, then we get you to do the rest. So this one, um, first of all, we have to install the remote access service or the remote access role. Oh, what's going on? I hope it's not because of the restore. Yeah. So we installed the remote access role, and remote access role, it's asking for three options that we can install. So it used to be two in December 2012 or 2012 out to they added web application proxy. So you can install direct access and VPN, routing, or web application proxy. So what we want is direct access and VPN. And then install this. So that's setting up our server here. And this server, let's show the interfaces that it has. It has two interfaces. This one is connected to the domain or to the internal network. This one will be the one that we'll be using for the external network. So it's got 192.168.145.3. So let's write that down in the diagram. So yeah, we got 192.168.145.3. Yep, so that's the interface of this one. And then the interface that is connecting to the internal network is 192.168.140.3. So that's the internal one, that's the external one. So let's see what's going on. Then the client that we'll be using is this guy right there. Okay. So does anyone wants to take over the mouse and configure our Active Directory certificate services? Because I think we've just installed it. I don't think we've configured it or issued certificate or anything like that. Anyone wants to do that? Shami, you want to do that?
Sorry, David, I missed what you said.
Yeah. So I said, do you want to configure the certificate services for no, this one?
Oh, the CA.
Yeah.
Oh, I wouldn't know where to start.
Ah.
I yeah.
So okay, let's guide you through. So Sven, you want to guide Shami through?
Um, yeah, well, I can start and then, yeah, well, yeah.
Go for it, Sven.
Okay, then I think we first have to go to this guy with a certification authority.
Mhm.
Should be the first step.
Mhm.
Okay, here we are. So, oh no, that's a. This,
Because the main thing is that we need the certificate. What do we need the certificate for? We need the
uh,
certificate for our server, right?
yeah.
Yes, yeah.
So, I think we have to go to the web page, right?
Not really.
Not?
Well,
Okay.
we can do it directly from here also. So what we can do here is under certification authority, under
Where's
the management interface of certification authority.
other
The
the
one that you
manage
have, the one that you have below.
the manage button? What's this one?
Yeah, yeah, that one. So under that one, so the first thing I want to make sure is that our users and our computers can request certificates. So that's the first thing we want to do. Because the computer must be able to request for a certificate, right? And the users must be
Hmm.
able to request for a certificate. So the way we can do that is under certificate template.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I haven't used templates yet.
yeah.
Oh,
Because
okay.
what template is basically saying this is a user certificate, this is a computer certificate. Which one do you want this person to be able to request for? Which one do you want this other guy to be able to request for? So normally, if you right click on this one, on certificate template,
Hmm.
so if you right click on it,
Okay. Wait. I right click, but it doesn't do anything.
let me go.
Yeah.
It's probably just throwing a fit. I think it should respond.
Hmm.
So what I want to do is to say users can request for. Not sure why it's not doing anything. Strange. Yeah, even right click is not
Uh,
working here. So if I go back to okay, I think it's back now. Carry on.
okay. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
So under manage, yeah. So here we go. So now it's giving us a list of all the different certificate templates. So we need two mainly. We need the computer and we need the user.
Okay.
So if you
So
go on
this
the
one.
computer, yeah. So if you right click on it and go on the properties, so what we want to do is we want to say the VPN server can request for a certificate from this certification authority. So the way we do that is
Mm-hmm.
under security. So you have to set,
Ah.
yeah, so we have to set who can enroll certificate, who can,
Okay.
you get the point.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's
We can even just use just domain computers and just put a group and say all domain computers.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay. Yeah.
because the
Uh,
object type, the object type. Yeah, group.
Well, it looks like domain computers is already in
It's
there.
a group. It's a group.
Yeah.
Okay, I
So
got
what
it.
are you saying,
Yeah.
Jose?
I thought it was already in there. That's why I thought
Okay.
that's why I didn't.
Domain computers. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can read and enroll, and then after you say can enroll, and then you can say okay. So yeah. So the other thing you can do is if you go back to the VPN server now, and then see if you can request for a certificate
Okay.
from this guy.
Okay.
So it's down there under VirtualBox.
Okay. It's the VPN box is a member server.
Yeah, member server. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So
Then
how do we request for
we
certificate?
close this one, and then we have to configure the remote access. Yeah. Okay. This takes a while. This wizard takes a while, and I realized that sometimes it's in down there. So
Yep.
it's gross sometimes. So we just deploy VPN, right?
Yeah, but
No.
before we deploy VPN, we
Yeah.
need a certificate on this machine.
Okay. Um.
So how do we
You open
request?
the you add the snap in for the
Yeah,
security.
good one, Jose.
Okay.
Good
Okay.
one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Then let me see. Hello. Okay. Come on. Yeah. Okay.
So we have to.
So let's snap in certificate. Should be computer account, right?
Yep. So it'll be computer account.
Okay, local computer. Finish. Okay. Um, I've never requested a certificate in this way.
Mhm.
But
So
is
on
it
the
this one? Is it this one? Or
yeah, try that one. Let's see.
okay. Okay.
Certificate auto enrollment has not been enabled. Oh, so what does that mean? So let's get Shami to do this part, then we get Jose to do the
Yeah.
next one. So
Okay.
what we've done now is we've set it so that our computer can get the certificate. But now that we have gone to request the certificate, it's like no, I still need something to be enabled. So the thing we need to be enabled, so we get Shami to enable this one. So
Okay.
what you need to do, Shami, is you need to go
Go
under
to CA.
group policy. Yeah, go to the CA or to the Active Directory actually. So it's the same one that is the CA. But you need to go under group policy and then you need to set a policy that will enable auto enrollment of certificates. Otherwise, even though your CA is configured, even though you've set to your CA, all computers can request computer certificates, but you still need to configure the client side of things. So under group policy, yeah. So what you need to do is just edit the default domain policy. We don't need to create a new one. So let's just
Okay, so
edit.
we're gonna
Yeah,
edit the main policy.
let's edit that one and let's just make a change. So the change that we're looking for will be under policies, under Windows settings. Good one. So under Windows settings, then under security settings, then under public key, there you go, public key
Public
policies.
key policies.
So if you click on public key policies itself, yeah, so you can see there are two policies. Yeah,
Okay, hold on,
so
let's open that.
enrollment, auto enrollment, client services client, certificate services client, auto enrollment, certificate enrollment policy. So you have to configure those two. So it said view, yeah. So renew expired certificate, update pending certificate, remove remote certificate. So you can configure that. So that's for auto enrollment. Yep. Then
Okay.
yep. And then yep.
You would select that one, wouldn't
Yeah.
you, as well?
Yeah. So normally in a domain you want it to automatically renew certificate that have expired, and stuff like that. So you can click OK after that. And then you have to enable the other policy too. And what you're saying to the other policy is enabled. So look at what that policy is. So actually if you cancel this and go back and double click on that policy again, it describes what the policy is doing. It says Windows clients, we use the default configuration for this policy. So basically this one will allow them to be able to enroll certificate or to be able to request certificate. So you have to enable that. You can click on properties for that to see what's inside. You can use the default one. So what that one is basically saying is that is the CA that you should use. So, and then you see below it says enable for automatic enrollment and renewal, requires strong validation during enrollment. So, yeah, so you can click OK to that.
What is the definition of strong validation?
So, whenever you're doing any transaction in AD, it's validating you. There's like a password validation. Even computers log in, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So what it's saying is that when the computer comes and says, "Hey, I need the certificate from you," require the computer to validate itself. So usually, by saying require strong validation, you're saying require Kerberos authentication.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
So it's not going to just say, I'm going to give it to you because you're requesting. You have to validate yourself. Yeah. So those two, then go do a GP update on the on the mem server, and then try to request for the certificate again. Yep. And try to request that certificate again.
Auto enroll. Next.
Yeah. Then
Okay,
let's
that
go.
works.
Let's go. Actually, if you scroll down, it says unavailable. So that means something is not. So keep scrolling down. So actually, I think I know what is happening because it's not using your computer account to enroll this one. It's using your user account. So I think you need to go edit. You need to go edit the security under the CA to say allow domain users to request for computer certificate. So not just
On users.
so no, under computer. So it's computer certificate that we need mainly.
Enroll.
Yeah, and under computers, yeah, okay, yeah. So that's good. I think that's good. I think that's good actually. Yeah, so go try that again. You can try refreshing it, I think. Just refresh it. And then let's see what that does. So no. So if you close this, and then go under personal, expand personal, right click on personal, and go alter, request new certificates. Yeah, so use that one. Yeah, that one, and go next. So Active Directory enrollment policy. So because the only one that you've allowed users to request a computer certificate, the only one that should come up, yeah, should be computer certificate.
Okay.
So you select it and say, well, I want a computer certificate and go enroll. Yep, and then we're done. So now we should have a certificate. So if you go on that certificate and open the certificate. So certificate was issued by our CA. It expires on 25/01/2016. If you double click on it, and if you go under details, the public key should be down there. Yeah, so that's the public key for it. And then the other thing that you find out is that if you close this and go under expand intended purposes. So part of the intended purposes should be server authentication. So intended purposes there. Yeah. So part of it should be, yeah. So we have client authentication, server authentication. So that means the server can use it to authenticate itself to say, hey, this is who I am. So it's not just the server acting as a client, it's the server acting as a server. So that's good. Yeah, okay.
And
So now,
you should see that it is signed from the CA, right?
yes. Yeah.
Should be signed from our CA.
Yeah, yeah.
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 I gotta run, guys. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, so that's done. So the next thing we'll do is let's get Oze to configure the VPN server now.
I actually gotta run. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, my little one just woke up from her nap. So.
Yeah, sure, no problem, man.
Okay.
No problem, man. Congrats again, man. Yeah.
All right, thanks, guys.
No problem.
Okay.
See you.
Bye.
Yeah,
Bye.
yeah. So let's quickly do the configuration of the VPN server itself. So okay, you want to do this again, Sven? The configuration of the VPN server, yeah.
Okay.
So let's go. No, you can close that. It's alright.
Okay. So this is it still the okay.
Yeah.
Then we deploy VPN only.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
that'll be good. So let's deploy the VPN server. Yep.
Okay. So
you want to click on that? You want to right click?
Right.
Yeah. Good one.
Yeah. Okay. Then we have to do the wizard here, and we just want to use dial-up for VPN, the first one.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, then we want to use VPN, no dial-up connections.
Yeah.
Then the internet facing was Ethernet 2, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I would deselect this one because otherwise we wouldn't be able to do RDP on this part or so.
No, we will still be actually, because actually, like normally that one is a good one in a production environment.
Yeah, in production. Okay,
yeah.
but I realized when I select this one, I'm not able to do RDP or other traffic on this adapter. But
you'll be able to do it only after you VPN'd in.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then if you go next, so I'm not sure if Shami is getting it. So that's like the internet-facing adapter that we specify.
Yeah.
So then after we specify it, then the next thing it wants to know from us, I think, is DHCP pool. So if you click next.
Yeah. So do you got a DHCP server or?
Yeah. So we can specify. We can either say, oh, use the DHCP server, or we can say, let us specify the range on this server.
Yeah.
So if we use a DHCP server, the way it's going to work is that this remote access server, we go to ask the DHCP server and say, give me 10 addresses. The DHCP server will give it 10 addresses. It will keep it and it will give that to computers as they connect. And when it runs out of the 10, it will go to the DHCP server and say, can you give me 10 more addresses? So it will basically be caching a pool of DHCP addresses. So that's the way to work. So basically, this server will be maintaining the DHCP list on behalf of the client.
Yeah.
So that's if we want to use it with the DHCP server. But what we can do is let us specify it manually on this server.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's just specify 192.168.1.140, 196.140.
140.
No, .140 in the terminal docset. Yeah. .140. .50.
40.
.50.
Okay.
Yeah.
50.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then let's just say number of addresses 50. It will automatically calculate it. 100 is good.
But
100. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
that's good. Yeah. Okay.
okay.
And then so that's the DHCP
So
that was going to be given to
yeah,
client. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So now
Okay.
here's a bit of we
Yeah,
said we can use the routing and remote access, or we can set up the server to work with a radio server. So in what
yeah.
situations do you think we'll need to set up a radio server?
I think the radio server is used when you've got a lot of VPN servers,
Yeah.
and then you will use the radio server, and otherwise you should go with use routing and remote access to authenticate connection requests, which actually means that the server is using Kerberos and Active Directory
Yeah.
for
But
authentication.
the other thing is that in I mean, why, even if we have multiple, servers, why do we have to use a radio server, even if we have multiple servers? Why not just say, hey, go to talk to Active Directory directly?
Mm. Yes, that's actually a good question.
Yeah. No, the reason is,
Yeah.
Shami, you want to, do you have any ideas, any opinion about that, or any thoughts about that?
So it just it can load balance it throughout. So one VPN server might have more load than the other VPN servers, and that's where a radio server comes into play.
I think one of the major reasons why a radio server comes into play is now you have to configure your authentication policy manually on this VPN server.
Ah,
But if you
okay.
have
Yeah.
multiple, why need to configure it manually on this? Then go to the other VPN server and configure your authentication policy manually on this. Why not configure your authentication policy on the radio server?
Hmm.
And they
And
all
then
send
deploy
the
it as well.
request. Yeah, exactly. So they all go to the radio server, which has a single authentication policy, and then they connect. But basically, what we're going to be doing now, if you say use this one for the authentication request, we have to configure the authentication policy on this manually. So yeah, that's why. So if you click next to that, let's just use routing
Hmm.
and remote access. Yeah,
Okay.
and then yeah, finish.
And yeah, basically finish.
Yeah,
You must configure the
yeah. This
properties.
that
Okay.
that's if we're using DHCP relay.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
now this machine is like we're setting up the VPN server side of things. So let's take it.
Okay.
So the thing we want to take a step further now is let's go. So actually, before we go ahead, let me quickly do something. Let me quickly, because
Okay.
we have our client that we'll be using to test here that we've not set up.
Ah.
So let me quickly, yeah, let me quickly get this one, yeah, because it goes through like a lot of nonsense where does anyone know? I'm sure there will be a good policy to disable, the welcome screen that it goes through, right?
You can. There's a keyboard shortcut where you can break
Um,
sysprep. Wait a second.
yeah, carry on.
Uh, Keyboard shortcut. Wait a second.
Yeah.
Keyboard shortcut sysprep. Shift Control F3. This is a keyboard command to get out of the welcome screen after when you boot up a sysprep machine.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you get in something called audit mode.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So I just press Shift Control F3, right?
Yeah. But you always have to be cautious when you got this modern keyboards. When you also have to press an FN key, then it doesn't work. I realized. And also when you got a virtualized machine, you also have to look that your hypervisor forwards the keys to the client.
Okay. I think I'll read more about that. Okay. Yeah, because it's really annoying, like to be going through like it turns red, then purple,
Yeah.
then green, and
Yeah.
it goes to like a really
Yeah.
long process and all that.
Yeah,
Okay.
but you can also do sysprep and define an answer file.
Yeah.
And this would work.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, good one. Okay, yeah, that's a nice one. That's a nice one to know. Thanks, Ben. So that Shift Control F3 just breaks that. Yeah, good one. Because it's annoying. It's annoying.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so why that's going on? Okay, yeah. So we can. So now we have our VPN server all ready for us. If we go under ports, we can see the ports that are open on this
Yeah.
VPN server. We can go under properties. So under properties, we can see the different connection protocols that we mentioned. So these are different connection protocols, STP, IC version 2, and that. So then if we come under um, the other thing that we can do is let's go. Okay, so we need to configure. What else do we need to configure? We need to configure our
The
VPN server.
certificate for
Yeah,
SSTP, right?
exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to
So.
get Shami to do that?
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Shami, do you want to do that? To configure. So let's configure the VPN server side of things. So yeah, so under LonMem1, if you right click LonMem1 and then go under its properties, and then after it comes up, yep. So here we can go under security. So here is where we can set the part of the things that we're discussing. We can say, yeah, use Windows authentication or radius. But part of the thing that we can also do, if we go under authentication methods, here's where we can specify basically the one that we were
Okay,
talking
which
about.
method? Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
And say which ones do we support? Are we going to be using MS CHAP 2? Are we going to be using CHAP or PAP? Are we going to be using machine certificates? Are we going to be using unauthenticated access? So basically, we can leave it at MS CHAP and EAP. So that's okay. So yeah, so the other thing that we can do, so on that, so because we're going to be doing SSTP, we have to specify the certificate exactly. So then we have to specify the certificate here, and
Yeah.
then yeah, so then we can apply that one. Yep, and then we start the service. Then the other thing also, come on, go, go, go.
Is the client part of the domain
No, I need
yet?
to join it. No, not yet. I need to join it.
Ah, okay.
I
Because
need to,
because the client has to trust the CA,
yes,
otherwise
That's
he will
right.
not able to connect.
yes. So it's not only trusting the CA. There's also something else that it's gonna be, because what we're gonna be doing is like it has to have
So,
access. There are many things, because one of the things is that if you have a certificate and the certificate is issued, the certificate says issued to LonMem1, and then you now try to access the VPN server via IP address, um, it's gonna fail.
yes, I
Yeah.
think this is due to checking the revocation list, right?
Yeah, that's part of it. But also
Yeah.
the main thing is that you have to, because now if we disconnect the client from the network, from the domain, it doesn't have access to the DNS server. Because now we are not, now we are not like in an internet environment. So because it's gonna, because if we want to connect to this VPN server, we have to add an host entry on the client.
Ah, I know
Yeah,
because
because of the name.
because the client doesn't know what lonmem1.datum is.
Yeah,
Because this is not an external name, and when we use the IP address of the VPN server, it wouldn't work because the IP address isn't part of the certificate, right?
exactly. And then it's gonna give an error
Okay.
message and say,
Yeah.
um, you're sending me to 172.168.145.
Yeah.
Certificate is saying I'm LOMM1. I'm not going to allow.
Yeah. I
So
think.
yeah,
Okay. Wait a second.
so that's the one that we're gonna.
Uh,
So let's quickly set this guy up to connect to the domain. Yeah, thanks very much for that.
should be this one.
Mm,
Yeah, it's a virtual machine.
Yeah. Okay, I just quickly change this guy to the domain. Yep, yep. And then when it comes back, then we'll try to. Is there anything that we're missing? Is there anything that you think we're missing, Shami? So we have our server as a certificate.
You have a server, and then it's joining into the domain.
Yeah,
So it's going to get a group policy saying, so we'll have the certificate
yeah.
on that. We would need to set up the VPN connection on the client machine.
There's something that we're missing. I just remember now. There's something we're missing. Anyone knows what we're missing? We've set up authentication, right?
Yeah.
Authorization.
But we are using EAP and MS Chat v2
Yeah.
Yep.
for authentication.
Yeah, but remember we've missed authorization. We've missed authorization.
That's authentication. Yeah.
Yeah, we've missed authorization on the Active Directory users and computers.
Yes, you're absolutely right. So the account has to be allowed on the dial-in tab.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Especially when you use the administrator,
Yep.
because this guy is deactivated by default. Allow access, absolutely.
Yeah, because now we can set it to say control access through MPS network policy. So in other words, it's going to try to use whatever configuration we have under MPS access. So we can go to this guy here and go MPS. MPS is really it looks complicated because Microsoft's implementation of this one is just crazy, but it's actually very simple. So actually, let's actually use MPS for this. Let's not use allow from the user.
Okay.
So you want to configure the MPS for us, Ben?
Yeah, I can try.
Yeah.
I think basically, where is it? Wait a
Yeah.
second. There are network policies, and Microsoft uses two ones. It's basically not that anybody connects to your machine while you are setting up your VPN connection.
Yeah.
And you can say.
No, we don't want to use that one. We want to create our own.
Oh, you want to use a new one?
Yeah, we want to create our own.
Okay.
We want to use our own brand new one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then we use a new one.
So let's call it VPN connection. So we say this policy is for people that will be connecting to our VPN.
Okay, like the SSTP or?
Yeah, we can use that.
Okay. So this we can leave to unspecified?
Yeah, we need to specify. Right. No, we need to specify the type of network server. So we want to use it for remote access server. We don't want to use this for health registration authority. We don't want to use it for any other thing apart from remote access server. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, we have to specify the condition that has to be met before this policy is evaluated. So the configuration, the condition I want to use is a group of. The easiest one to use is the user group.
The user group.
Yeah, any user in this group, examine this policy for them. So we can say all domain users or something like that.
Okay. Okay.
Yep. And then, so we can have as many conditions as we want. And then what we want, so we want to deny access or allow. So I want to allow access.
And this is, no.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay. We leave it as
that,
safe. Yeah.
So here again, we can specify authentication methods here. So yeah, we can go, we can even go and say add. So if you want to add, you can add. And add things like the PAP. So we can add everything, doesn't matter. because you're just going to try them in that order depending on what we've configured.
Okay.
No,
So
go ahead and add them. Can add those three.
Okay. Oh.
So otherwise, the only thing that is going to try to use is we'll try to use MS Sharp and MS Sharp version 2.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but because we had those ones, we will try to use those ones also. Yeah.
Okay.
So here's like things like where we specify things like what's the so the connection. If the user is allowed to connect and the user is not doing anything, should the user time out after how many minutes? So here's where we specify that. Well, we can leave that one. So session timeout is to say the user is not allowed to connect for more than 4 hours. So after the user is connected for like 4 hours, the user will be disconnected.
Yeah.
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 So we can go next. We can leave that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So those are just restrictions. I think
Okay.
this one is like where we can specify it. For example, now if I go to okay, standard. So network access protection. So we can say allow full network access. So here is where we can specify things like we don't want the user to have access to everything on the network. We only want the user to access our file server or our file server or our email server. We can create an IP filter to say to the user, hey, you can only access. It says do not permit packet below. Permit only the packet listed below.
Okay.
Yeah. So we can say okay, we're restricting access to our email server. So you can connect via VPN, but you won't be able to access the email server. So here's where we set things like that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, carry on.
Okay. Well, this is
Encryption.
encryption.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. This is the static IP addresses we defined.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then it's just summary of what
Yeah.
we've configured, and then yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we're done with this one. So now we've configured
Yeah.
authorization
Because this one has the lowest procession order, it will be examined first,
Yep.
and then the users will get access
Yeah.
due to this
This
policy.
is that one. Yeah.
Okay.
So let's see if the client. Let me see the client now.
Yeah.
The guy's back up now. Yeah. So the guy's back up. So what we want to do is let's see if this guy is got the certificates already.
But did you install the network policy server as a role, or did it install with a remote access role?
So once we install the remote access role, it installs that automatically.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So it doesn't matter there. I can use finish. Go okay. So I want to see if this one's got our. Yep, it's got it. So it's got our root certificate here. Yeah. So Shami, do you want to test it? So what I want to do is
Establish a network connection. Yep.
yeah. So let's actually change the. Sorry. Let me quickly change this one because we need to move the adapter from the internal network to the external network, which is this one, and then change the IP address from 140 to 145, which is the external. So our external one is 145, so we need to change it to 145. So that then we say 145. Yep, and then we can remove this one completely. Okay, and then yeah. So carry on. So Shami, you want to set up our VPN connection to the server?
Okay. So establish a VPN connection.
Yeah.
Use Internet VPN.
Yep.
Set internet connection.
And later you can use later because this one is not connected to the internet. That's why. So because he was thinking internet connection. Yeah.
Okay, and then the IP address of our VPN server.
Yeah. Again, remember, do you think that will work if we use the IP address?
No, but we'll have to go into the LM host file.
Yeah. So we need to add an entry for learnmem1.adatum.com, because if that one present that certificate and we're using 192 here, it's going to have, okay, you're sending, this has been issued to learnmem1, and you're saying 172, sorry, 192, so I'm not going to work. So it's learnmem1.adatum.com.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My credentials. This is one of the things which is interesting with us over VPN a while ago, and I wanted users to be able to log on before to be able to VPN before log on. And the first time I initially set up, I didn't tick this option, and then it doesn't show you that the little box in the little corner. It's very annoying, and then you have to go and remove the VPN and create it again.
I never noticed that. So you have to tick that one in order to be able to say, do the connection before you log in.
Yeah. Okay.
So, yep. So we can test it.
So have we modified the host file?
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to do that one.
Windows System 32.
Yep.
Yeah.
Compared to
drivers etc.
Drivers etc. Yeah.
Yeah. Hosts.
Okay, so
192.168.145.3.
learnmem1.datum.com.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's try that. So yeah, administrator, I'll type the password. I think we'll need to type the domain also. Yeah. Yep. Temporary password.
$.
What do you think will happen? Do you think this will work?
Yeah, I think we have to deactivate the revocation list.
Yeah. So if you carry on and click connect to that, what it's just saying is that, hey, because I want to do mutual authentication, but I don't have enough information to validate this server. What do you think?
It worked. Okay, but I think this notice was based on based on this revocation list checking.
Yeah, that was what I was thinking also. I was thinking that it will complain that it needs to check the revocation list. 192. Let's ping our domain controller 140.2, which is inside the network. Yeah, and we can reach our domain controller. So that is good, guys. So basically, yeah. So that's basically it. So it's the same concept that we use here that we use for like many VPNs. It may just be different protocols. The main thing about VPN is understanding the protocol, which is complex. But that's the main thing. Okay, so nice one, guys. Nice one. So nice hanging out with you. So I think that's about it for today.
Yeah.
But we've run so much over time.
What will be the topic for next week?
Yeah. So because we won't be meeting next week, we'll be resting next week. So there's no hangout for next week.
Okay.
Yeah, there's hangout for upper week.
Okay.
But what I'm thinking to do is, because we've missed out on direct access, so maybe in between next week and next Sunday that we'll be having hangout, I'll probably send out an invite for something about direct access, so that we can, so that we won't have to take from the normal schedule that we have. Yeah. So nice one, guys. Nice one. I mean, we just configure the full VPN server and stuff like that.
Yeah. Especially this auto enrollment was a very nice one, because I always did it by hand, so to say.
Yeah.
And so I did the certificate on the certificate server, and then I exported it and imported it on the VPN machine.
Yeah.
This auto enrollment is really a nice feature.
Yeah, I mean the client one, I had no idea about the client one also, that you could,
Yeah.
because I always get annoyed like when it gets to that place. I'm like, oh my God, what's the meaning
Yeah.
of all this blue, yellow? Then it will change
Yeah.
and tell me all kinds of stories.
Yeah, and you have to monitor when your certificates in your environment expire. So this
Yep,
is really a great feature.
yep,
I think for two things for me on the whole of the 410, 411, 412
yep,
is this understanding NPS, VPNs,
yep,
and certificates,
yep.
both two subjects
Mm.
we talked about today, so I understand a bit more. Still a long way to go,
Yep,
but I understand it a bit more. I
yep.
hate these two subjects.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
true. Yeah, actually, like the MPS one, like I know the MPS one, there's another module. I think actually, like the next module is on MPS. So actually, let me bring up the textbook that let me bring up. I think the next module is on MPS. Yeah, the next module is on MPS, and network policy server infrastructure is the next module. So we'll do direct access in between that. But yeah, that one, because mainly the people that use them, like mainly that I've seen so far, are like usually educational institutions.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand like the gist of the HRA and
Yep,
understanding the validation and all of this. I think for me
yep,
it's more about the remote access side of it, and all of the protocols, all of those
yep,
is confusing, and it's like understanding okay, what's the benefit of PP2P
yep,
over LT2P, and then
yep,
if you have a question to say okay, which one would you use in this environment,
yep,
or why would you not use PPTP over this, or
yep,
which one would be if you can put a list in order, which one is from most insecure to secure.
yep,
It's
yep,
like, oh man, what do
yep.
I do?
Yeah, and I think one of the things that makes it confusing also is because when I was reading the old Microsoft textbook also, the exam ref. Do you know that textbook, the exam ref? Is that they jumbled
Yeah,
everything together and it makes it look confusing. Because when they were talking about PPTP, at the same time, they were talking about MS Chap and EAP, and I was like, "Hold on, you're confusing me," you know. So so hold on. So what's the difference between PPTP and MS Chap and all this stuff? Don't just mix everything together. You know, I want to understand
Yeah.
exactly. So eventually, the only way I was able to break it down is there are three different stages: the connection, where you have like things like the PPTP, and they can use any authentication protocols that they want to use. Then you have the authentication protocols, which are like the MS CHAP, the PAP, and the other ones. And like, okay, so that is like much better than you just jumbled everything together. And when they were talking, so the same thing. So I go to the next one, they're talking about LTTP, and then they're talking about MS CHAP again, and I'm like, I don't understand what you're talking about. You're just mixing everything together. Yeah,
yeah,
Yeah. And it's always a good idea to monitor your connection with Wireshark,
yeah,
and then you can
yeah,
see what the client is doing, and then you actually
yeah.
understand what
What's actually going on?
PPTP really does and what the authentication does, and you can see if your connection is encrypted or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Actually,
This
yes,
really
because
helps.
I was looking for that. I think I eventually found one, but I'm not sure where I found it. Like for the PPTP one, like to try to see uh, a capture for it and see what is actually going on. But then,
Mm.
the other thing that was shocking to me, I'll show you the other thing that was shocking to me is that, this cloud cracker guys, they not only
Mm.
claim to be able to crack WMS chat PPTP protocol, they said we can crack NTLM protocol also. So I'm thinking I'll probably try that in a lab and upload it to this website and see if they can crack it. I want to try that and just force my domain and say don't use cables, use NTLM. I'll upload it to it and then see if they can crack it.
nice.
Yeah, I want to see. Okay, no problem, guy. Nice hanging out with you guys. So see you upper week. I'll send an invite on
Yeah.
direct access in between there.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
Take care, guys.
yeah.
Thank
Have a
you.
good
Yeah.
week. Yeah.
Thank
See
you
you later.
guys.
Bye
Bye.
bye.
Okay. Yeah. Good.